against all odds. Against all odds.
All right, good morning. It is Wednesday. Man, we've had a couple of days off. We're going to be back at it with the Rise and Grind morning show, at least for today. Got a lot going on this week, but I appreciate you guys all joining me this morning. We do have Riley with us. We're going to get to plenty of topics this morning. We've got a lot going on here, but again, it's NFL news to kick off the day. Shedeur Sanders, the Kittle contract. How does that affect Sam Laporta? Well, I think it's going to affect it a lot, but we'll talk it out and see where that goes. NFL power rankings are out after the draft, and then the way too early draft projections for 2026 already. And then Lions news, man. We're going to get into quite a few things, but Lions fans are pissed off, apparently, at Brad Holmes about this edge rusher conversation. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly why you're wrong. And we're going to get into all that as soon as we get back here on the Rise and Grind morning show. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for sticking around. Here we go. All right. Good morning, Riley. What's happening today, man?
Good morning, man. I love the new format for the introduction. You give us a quick 30 seconds. We get the song going again, and then we're back to it, man. And this whole hate with Brad Holmes, it's a weird kind of thing going on, man. We got to kind of dispel this thing once and for all, hopefully. And I don't know if that's possible, but we'll keep trying, right?
I don't think it's possible, man. Look, it is and it isn't. Honestly, I feel like there's just this faction, and I keep using that word a lot, but there's this faction of the fan base that has been all over Brad Holmes because of the lack thereof of a second edge rusher. And I thought I did a really good job at breaking all this down multiple times. Number one, I mean, not to get going off in this topic already, but I guess what the hell? Let's just go for it. Number one, I said multiple times this year, don't be surprised when we don't take an edge rusher in this draft, or at least in the first round or two. I wasn't surprised. Tyreek Williams was my number one overall pick in the first round for a reason. Number two, how many teams out there have two edge rushers that you could legit say are top of the class on both sides, that are tier one edge rushers, left and right side? None. And maybe one would be Houston Texans. How about this? The Cleveland Browns legit passed on Abdul Carter. You could have had Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett, which would have been the scariest defensive ends on one team in the NFL, and they passed. That should have been your wake-up call. Like, look, there's people out there that are smarter than me, a lot of them. And I would say that every NFL team, their scouts, their personnel, look, they know way more than I do. They have way more information than I ever will have. Why do you think the Browns passed on Abdul Carter? Do you really feel like Travis Hunter or moving back and collecting picks or whatever was the better pick? Who did the Browns take with number 5? Who did they take? I forget now.
I think they took Graham.
Yeah. So they took an interior defensive lineman. That's right. And why would you take an interior defensive lineman? Because that helps your defensive ends. It absolutely helps. And I don't care who you are, what you've coached, what you've played, your high school glory days. I don't care about none of that. Okay. If you don't understand by now that the A gap and the B gap are the quickest ways to get to the quarterback, you don't know football. I'm sorry. It's been that way forever. And it's simply said, go back to 2014 and look at the Lions team that we had assembled. Nick Fairley, and Ndamukong Suh, the most dominant interior defensive line group in the NFL, wreaked havoc on quarterbacks. And just like Brad Holmes said, look, it's not about getting sacks. He clearly told you that this weekend again. It's not about getting sacks. It's about being disruptive, right? It's about winning your one-on-ones, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get to the quarterback. It's about creating chaos. It's getting quarterbacks uncomfortable, not sacks. And I'll say it one more time for the people way in the back. A TFL, whether it's a quarterback or a running back or a wide receiver, right? It's all the same as a sack. If you bring down a running back in the backfield, it's the same as a sack. If you bring down a receiver in the backfield, it's the same as a sack. The only difference is it's not a quarterback, so they don't label it a sack. A TFL and a sack is the same exact thing. Would you rather have more TFLs or more sacks? And I'm going to say both, because they both matter, right? It's two different ways to call the same thing the same thing. Disruption matters. Not having two edge rushers. And Brad Holmes is right. Matter of fact, let me try to pull up some info here, because, and while I'm doing that, Riley, give me your take here on what you're thinking on why this fan base, for whatever reason, thinks that we can only have two edge rushers.
Yeah, I think it's, I see it on both ends, because I look at our chat. I feel like it's a very knowledgeable group. I feel like, I'm surrounded by a lot of very smart, intelligent football people. I see a lot of good comments in this chat, but then of course you do see all the other comments, and you see the narratives that are out there that are they just won't go away. And I think what you're maybe pulling is Brad Holmes' comments himself on the thought process, for whatever reason, that they just can't get over. It's like it's almost like, would you rather have a Super Bowl or a second edge rusher? And I think some people might pick a second edge rusher. I would like a Super Bowl. I would like a good football team. I'd like a Tyleik Williams, somebody that you can anticipate is going to be here for, probably beyond even his rookie contract, a reliable player that you know what you're going to get. And I would expect that the DBs on the team would fall in line with that too. You just want the best football players. And, Brad Holmes has shown that he's been pretty good at drafting those. No reason to think that he didn't just do that this last week again.
So I missed part of what you said, because I was trying to manage the volume, but I think I grabbed the majority of it there. That, would you rather have a Super Bowl or two edge rushers? I love that comment, because where the Lions are picking at the back end, hopefully the volume is a little bit better there. I was a little bit distorted. Picking at the back end of every round is not where you want to be if you're looking to get the best of the best. And let's be honest here. There's a reason why I said that there was only 12 first round grades in this draft. And then I lengthened that out a little bit to 14. And then I even added a 15th before the weekend started. But if you're picking at 30, and there's really only 15 first round grades, and there might be 3 blue chippers in this draft, those guys are gone. They're gone by the time you get to pick 28. And not only that, not only are they gone, but the reasons that I stated on the things that I was hearing about Brad Holmes wanting to move up and trying to move up, look, that was legit. And he, again, said it this weekend that, let me try to find it, that there was teams that, he was trying to move up, but nobody wanted to trade because of where they were picking. So without giving up too much draft capital of the future, for Brad Holmes to move from 28 to, let's just say 10, it would have cost us another first round pick plus 28. And so then you get your second edge rusher, which would have been Shamar Stewart, right? Or Mykel Williams. What happens if that guy doesn't work out? And now you've mortgaged your future. So next year you don't have a first round pick, plus other capital that you would have had to have given up, most likely a third this year and next year, probably, to move all the way up. We'd have to go back and analyze, the draft day trades that happened. But, for instance, look at what was the Falcons gave up. Was it the Falcons that gave up a first round pick?
Yeah, they traded with the Rams.
Yeah, to move up. back into the first round, and they gave up a first round pick just to move up 8 spots or whatever it was, 9 spots, the 15 spots. I think it was 15 spots, maybe a little bit more. So if they gave up a first round pick just to move from the middle of the second all the way up into the end of the first, what would the Lions have had to have given up to move up from 28 to 10? Now, if you could pull up the first round and pull up the players, I don't have it in front of me. Where was Michael Williams drafted? And where was Shamar Stewart drafted? Because as I pointed out, what I was hearing is that Brad wanted to move forward in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And if his player... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Michael was 11 to San Francisco. And then Shamar Stewart was 17 to the Bengals, which was one of your calls.
Yep. So like I said, number 10. Number 10 is where you had to be, or number 11, right? But number 10 is where you had to be to get Michael Williams. And I think that probably was the highest player on Brad's board in the first round for an edge rusher. I would say that Shamar Stewart might have been second. So that didn't happen. He couldn't move forward. He wasn't going to mortgage the future just to get another edge rusher. Now, we don't know if it was for an edge rusher, right? The conversation was simply, we've heard that Brad wanted to move up in this draft. We don't know what player it was for. We had no idea what player it was for. Nobody would know what player it was for unless you had a conversation directly with Brad Holmes. And even after the draft, Brad is not going to come out and say, yep, I was trying to move forward for an edge. He's never said that. He never will say that. He will never discredit or discount his own guys that he brought in. That would be like a huge slap in the face to Tyleik Williams or any other player that you've drafted if after the draft you go to the mic and you say, yep, we really wanted to get this guy. Or guys, we really wanted to get this edge, but we couldn't. So we took Tyleik instead.
Yep.
Brad would never do that. So for anybody out there that's saying anything different, they're full of crap. And that's what bothers me the most. And on this Wednesday morning, coming back into the first Rise and Grind morning show of the week, I'm a little heated about it because I'm sick of all of these bullcrap narratives by people that clearly don't understand football. They don't understand the dynamics of building a roster. They don't understand the dynamics of probably running a business, right? That's what you have to look at first. How do you run and operate a business first and foremost? The players are your business. And how do you organize trades in selecting certain players to make sure your business can grow? Prior to the draft, I said the most important position was going to be defensive tackle. And it was for a multitude of reasons, but the most important thing is because Ali McNeil is going to be gone through 3/4 of the season, at least. And even when he comes back, he may not be fully himself. I always say that when they return from injuries like this, it's a throwaway season. Aiden Hutchinson, we don't know what we're going to get out of him this year. So maybe if you would have dropped another edge rusher in the funnel here to back him up as a number one, yeah, that probably could have been a good move. But the bigger move was the more pressing need, which is they're thinking Aiden's going to be okay. You have to make sure that you have somebody in the interior of that defense to kind of broaden the stroke a little bit more. You all watched the Super Bowl, right? Riley, what was the most effective part of the Super Bowl for the defense of the Eagles?
It was they didn't get a ton of sacks, but it was a bunch of pressures.
They got 6 sacks. I mean, I would say that's a lot for a Super Bowl, but they also got a ton of pressures. And they had 4 sacks, I believe it was, on the interior defensive line. And they had 2 sacks from the outside, or they had 3 and 3. It was one of those two.
Blitzing a ton. That's right.
They didn't blitz at all. They very, very few times. The whole point that I'm trying to make here is the interior of the defensive line has always will be, always has been the most important part of a defense. The second part of that is your backfield. If your defensive backs are really good, that helps the front of your defense get home, right? Or to be able to cause chaos. If they get the ball off quickly, you need your defensive backs to be able to stay in phase, mirror match, and get to the ball, create some disruption, right? Knock the pass down, get an interception, or at least drop the guys where they catch the ball. We have guys that can do that. Terrian's coming into his second season. He's going to be phenomenal. But it starts up front. And at the interior, the fastest way to the quarterback is through the middle. if Tyleek and Aleem, when he comes back, and DJ Reader are able to affect the middle of this defense and force some disruption, that quarterback now doesn't have an option but to go left or right. Well, if Aiden's in the game and he's going right into Aiden as long as Aiden is where he's supposed to be. Right? With Derek Barnes back, we started to see what Derek Barnes could be. Hopefully he's able to fill in right behind Aiden and manage that whole side of the field between the flats, right? And moving forward up to the line. On the other side, you have Marcus Davenport and you have a couple of other guys, but you also have your nickel back that could be on either side, depending on what the strong or the weak side is. And you got a guy like DJ Reed who can come up and smack you in the mouth, and Terry Arnold, we know, is not afraid to come up and make a tackle either. And we have Alex Anzalone, who's always covered sideline to sideline. So right now, you've pushed that quarterback left or right. That is the best place to be, because if they can stand in that pocket and deliver the football, you're hurt. Like, you're going to get gashed up. So what the Lions did was perfect. You managed to bring in a guy that can help facilitate a need, which is Aleem McNeil, and your future for DJ Reader, who's potentially going to be gone after this season. I've heard some BS that they think that maybe DJ Reader is going to get cut at some point this year. That's not going to happen. There's no way that could happen. You've got Levi Onwuzurike, who still is somewhat of a question mark, and you don't know exactly what he's going to be, and he gets injured quite a bit, so you're not real sure what's going to happen. DJ Reader, yeah, he may have had a down year, I guess you could say, for him, but he had, again, a year that he's coming back from a major injury. It's a throwaway season. Did fine. Over 500 snaps, few sacks. He did great. Now he's stepping into year 2 inside this defense, and he has a guy like Tyleek Williams next to him and a guy like Levi Onwuzurike next to him. And then you've also got Josh Paschal, who played inside and outside last year. This defense is ready to go. We don't have a weak spot on this defense. If we do have a weak spot, it is linebacker. That would be the weakest spot on this team. And I would say that between Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, and Alex Anzalone, not too weak. We're pretty solid. So Brad Holmes hit it out of the park. Now I'm going to jump in and take a look at the chat and see what they're saying. But take it away for a moment. What do you think? And then I want to go into a quote here by Brad Holmes.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Sometimes it's hard to follow you up because I think you sum it up very well. We did have a super chat from Michael Garrity.
How come I don't get alerts in these things? What is going on here?
We got to figure that out. Make sure you guys got alert. Will?
No, I'm not getting an alert for some reason. But good morning, Michael Garrity. He says, if people don't trust Brad by now, they need to be FTB fans, Bears fans. Appreciate that, Michael. $5 super chat, man. As always, keep rocking on, man. So I guess that's my first question to you guys this morning, ladies and gentlemen out there in the audience. So are you comfortable with what Brad has done in this draft? He has always stuck to the trenches as the most important piece to this team. You can go back and look at his initial, picks, or you go all the way back and you can look at Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell. Look at how those picks set your team up for years, multiple years. Those guys are still playing football. They've got at least, Taylor's going to be entering, his 11th season, I think, or 9th season, something like that. Frank is not too far behind him. I think he's in his 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Penei should be entering his, I think, 5th.
Yep.
I mean, these guys are some of the best to do it. I mean, I know Taylor's fallen off just a little bit, but he's still one of the better, left tackles in the game. The trenches matter. Aleem McNeil was a 3rd-round pick. Where did he come out of? North Carolina State?
I believe so, yes.
Nobody would have thought that he was going to become the tackle that he is. And let's be realistic here. I heard people talking a lot of crap about Levi Onwuzurike. Does anybody realize that he was a top 16 defensive tackle in the league last year? With pressures and getting to the quarterback and creating chaos? Top 16. That means that there wasn't, but 15 other defensive tackles better than him, grade-wise, at getting after the quarterback. And Aleem McNeil, when healthy, was a top 7. So you have a top 7, a top 16. And, oh, by the way, when DJ Reader was playing at his elite, he was a top 20. So you have three of the most elite, in my opinion, defensive tackles in this game. And going back to what I said earlier, your defensive tackles were a big reason why the Philadelphia Eagles were able to do what they were able to do. Brad Holmes has been building this team to get to a point that this defense could do exactly what the Eagles were doing last year. And it's exactly what this defense started out to do last season through the first 5 weeks of the football season. Why did it change? Well, we kept losing football players. And so after you go down 16 guys to IR, and even before you get there, you have to blitz more. Manufacture pressure, not sacks, pressure. The Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Philadelphia Eagles were all in the middle of the pack for sacks during the regular season. So if you're going to tell me that sacks won the season, you're wrong, because the Lions were right there. It's not about sacks. It's about pressure. And no, do I care that Aiden led the team with sacks? Not at all. These guys weren't supposed to get after the quarterback. They were supposed to contain what they were doing. Well, they couldn't leverage guys to get after the quarterback. They had to make sure, right, that every hole was plugged and to stop the run. Sacks don't equal football wins. They just don't. Pressures do. And that has been my whole mantra about the defense this entire time, is that analogy that I give you guys about, the chain link, across the center of an offensive line. The minute that you break that center link, the rest of the offense starts to crumble with it. Now you have 3-4 guys that can penetrate, and you can win without dialing up a bunch of blitzes, which means now guys are more man-to-man, and everything is covered. Or if you go man zone, everything is still covered. This is going to give Tyrion Arnold and the rest of the DBs more opportunities to get turnovers through interceptions. And it's going to continue to shut down the run game, making teams more one-dimensional. We have a gauntlet of a schedule this year. And we're going up against some of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league. You better be able to win with your guys up front without having to dial up a bunch of blitzes, or you're going to get gashed in a hurry. Matter of fact, the same thing I said about Washington Commanders game last year, and I don't know why people continue to bring up that game and say, well, look what happened because we didn't have another tier 1 edge rusher. We lost that game. No. We lost that game because we had 16 guys on IR. And then we added a 17th with Amik Robertson by play 2 of the defense. That's why we lost that game. We didn't lose that game for any other reason. We shouldn't even have been in that game. How did we win 15 games with a bunch of what you guys think, or some of you guys think, garbage football players? You want 22 edge rushers on this defense? You ain't going to win too many football games. I think that we're doing just fine. And I think that Brad Holmes didn't do this to snub the fans. I didn't think that he did this just to kind of, say, hey, I'm the smartest man in the room. No, I think that he's trying to build a football roster. I think that he's trying to put the best guys on the field. And for him, selecting Tyreek Williams and then backing that up with the best guard in the draft, Tate Ratledge, he did exactly what he needed to do. He filled 2 needs that also happened to be best players available, and he got really good value. And then he tripled down by adding a wide receiver, which is, again, the third most important position that I said was going to come out of this draft, was a big, tall, big body, X style of wide receiver. Just so happens that Isaac Tesla runs a 4.4. He's got speed. He's got height. He's got weight. He's got rock solid hands. He doesn't drop footballs. He's going to be a special athlete. Brad hit this draft out of the park with where we were drafting. It is extremely easy to pick at the top of the draft. It is extremely hard to pick at the bottom. So I think what Brad is doing, and again, I said 3 to 4 guys out of this draft, don't be surprised. It's what he did. Now we get to see the brilliance of Brad Holmes with his later round picks. Where are they going to fit into the mold? Are they going to make the team? Are they going to be able to help this team? I think so. More importantly, I keep hearing the name Broderick Martin. Oh my God, we moved up to select Broderick Martin in the 3rd round. My God, people. He was a project from day one. Day one. And I'll say it again. Not too many 3rd round picks play or start in the NFL. Less than 15% of 3rd round picks start in the NFL or even play. It's no different for Broderick. It's no different for any other third-round pick. There's just not a whole lot of room on this football team. We're kind of stacked on the interior of this defensive line. Broderick Martin was never selected to be this, number one defensive tackle. He wasn't selected to be a starting defensive tackle. He's a rotational player. That's what he was selected to be, in my opinion. Brad calls him a project for a reason. He was raw. But there's not many guys that gifted, height, weight, speed, and whatever, that you can pass on when you feel that you have the ability to develop these guys. It just so happens he got hurt last year. So with a knee injury, that kind of sidelined. Let me throw this quote out, and then we'll move on. So Brad Holmes said this: I have been curious, the teams that have those 5 or 6 elite edge rushers in other media markets, I've been curious. Okay, we have an elite edge rusher. All we're going to ask is about the edge rusher. You know who those players are? When you go to those cities and those media markets, all you do is get questions about edge rusher. You have an elite one, but all you're asking about is how come you don't have another one? Now you get into are you trying to build a football team, or are you trying to just pair ends? I said all the time we would love to have 3 or 4 of them, but that's just not the reality of the time. What he's saying there is, look, nobody out there has 3, 4, 5, or 6 edge rushers that are elite. Nobody does. And it's evidenced. Go open a depth chart. What's funny is you hear these other, channels out there that are supposedly Detroit Lions fans, and they don't even know who's on our roster. They don't even have a clue who's on our roster. It just makes me chuckle inside when they have to question who's behind our starters. If you seriously don't know who's on the roster, why are you doing Lions content? That's my question. Here's another one by Holmes. He says they're hard to find, they're hard to get, they're hard to acquire. But I have felt like ever since we acquired Aiden Hutchinson, as great of a player he is, I've always felt like the fan base is almost mad. Like they're mad because we have Aiden Hutchinson. Because now he's so good, well, why don't you have 2 of them? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't understand this level of thinking. Would you guys have felt better if we brought in an edge rusher? Matter of fact, just go look at the stats. Okay, how many edge rushers have come in the first round and have been elite in their first year? Let me know, because it's very few. Like maybe 1 a year. Is that good? So you think at pick 28, whoever you select is going to be that guy? Doubtful. Yep, you catch a gem every once in a while like the Rams did last year. They got Jared Verse, and then they backed it up with Braden Fisk. Hey, they had a hell of a season. It's rare, but our team's going to allow them to do that in year 2? We'll see. The Rams had a hell of a draft too, so they kind of backed up everything they did the year before. All right, Riley, what's your first NFL news of the day? Unless you want to comment on all that.
Yeah, no, I think you made a bunch of great points. I think the thing too is what is the weakest point of this team right now? And then that's a great segment. That's a great idea for fleshed out conversation. Is probably linebacker. And if those are your linebackers, if that's your weak spot, you're probably a pretty damn good team. Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report put out a way too early 2026 NFL mock draft. It's so fun. Like as soon as 2025 ends, and I remember doing this every year, it's just an early look at next year's top picks. So he threw out, and I thought, well, let's just kick off some names here. I'm sure everybody in the chat's heard most of, if not all of these names, but an early look at the 2026 NFL draft by Bleacher Report's Brent Sobleski has the following 5 players slated as the top 5 picks. Starting at number 5, I'm going to go 5 to 1. As of today, he has the New York Giants taking Alabama offensive tackle Caden Proctor. At 4, he has the Tennessee Titans going with Ohio State safety Caleb Downs. 3, New Orleans Saints, Clemson edge TJ Parker. Number 2, Cleveland Browns going with a quarterback again, Texas quarterback Arch Manning. And then the number 1 overall pick, a name I hadn't even heard of to this point, New York Jets. He has them selecting South Carolina quarterback LaNorris Sellers. So clearly Sobleski doesn't think that either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders show enough in Cleveland to prevent them from taking a quarterback again next year in their pursuit of finally drafting the right quarterback. So obviously very early, Will, but do you think the Browns hypothetically could strike again at a quarterback next year, especially if that quarterback would be Arch Manning? We don't know for sure if he's going to come out, but if he is on the board and Cleveland's up, are they going quarterback again?
Man, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, right now they kind of have a quarterback room of misfits, and then they added Shedeur Sanders. So, look, I think the whole thing about Shedeur Sanders is, I think it's kind of laughable. I mean, I get it, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But look, they added Shedeur Sanders, who absolutely can be a starting quarterback. He could win the starting quarterback role this year, and if he does, then we got to see how he does. If the Browns do Browns things, and if they're picking at the top of the draft again, I don't expect them to get it right. I mean, they got 2 first-round picks next year. So how can you not get it right? I guess would be the better thing to say. How could you not get it right? Be interesting to see what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they take another quarterback to make sure that they have 2 young guys that they can grow with, but I really believe that is going to rely on what Shedeur Sanders does this year. If Shedeur can't beat out, who's on their roster now? Flacco,
they drafted Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett.
Oh, that's right. They got Gabriel. No, they're not taking another quarterback. No, I forgot they took Gabriel. So now it's Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, man. They're going to battle it out. Gabriel was taken what? Second round?
No, I think he was
third
or fourth. He was taken before Shedeur, which made the selection of Shedeur all the more interesting. You kind of wonder if, ownership forced the hand, came in and said, hey, if Shedeur's still on the board, just take him.
No, I think that they're set for right now. I think one of those 2 is going to give them a really good option, and they've got a leader in Flacco to kind of help develop these young guys. For what it's worth, I think that Shedeur's got some maturing to do, and we can kind of lead into that when you're done with this.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's, Shedeur, to me, I thought I didn't see any way he wasn't going to be a first-round pick. I just think he has the talent, but, that is the guessing game that is the NFL draft. So, we'll see. Again, just an early look at some names next year. I saw that article and I thought, who's the projected number 1 pick? Because I always have bookmark mental notes from the first time I heard about, the next year's possible first-round pick. So we'll see if this Lenoris Sellers ends up being, a name once, the upcoming college football season gets started and we're halfway through it. And look, we'll see how he's looking. Do you want me to roll into the other Shedeur Sanders bit I've got, or do you want to roll into yours and then?
Well, real quick, did Brent Lighton have a question or something? I see that he wanted, or my email address out there. So was there a question or anything?
I just saw he had asked what the email was to contact you.
Yeah, so it's either the info@rockdownpodcastnetwork.com, but use the mailbag@rockdown.com. That's the best one. Mailbag@rockdown.com. So as far as Shedeur Sanders goes, look, the Browns drafted a position of need, right? And I think that the reason why that he was chosen in the 5th round, which was quite surprising to many, we had anticipated that he would go a lot higher, but this again speaks to the information we don't have. Now, there was a leak about 6 weeks ago that Shedeur Sanders had some bad interviews. And it kind of came out after the fact by a few of the, the Mel Kipers, the Todd McShays, the Ian Rappaports, the Garofolos, that some of them said that wasn't the case. Some said it was the case. So you're kind of in this 50-50 of what's going on. Can you really pass on his talent? Did those interviews really screw his draft stock up? Did they even exist, those interviews, and what was said? What was the issue? Well, one of the main parts that I guess I've kind of figured out here, or that I've heard, is the impact of not having representation. He didn't have an agent. And that was cited as a very critical factor for Shedeur Sanders' drop. So when you're negotiating everything yourself, when you're speaking to all these teams yourself, or your father is, or whomever is, right? And you don't have that buffer, sometimes you hear things that you don't like to hear. And as humans, we didn't want to hear that. So we might feel a certain way. And then you might say things a certain way or react a certain way, especially if your emotional intelligence hasn't kicked in and you're able to kind of handle it, right? And understand that this is a business transaction, and I'm going to hear some things I don't want to hear. I'm going to hear some things that I want to hear. And I've just got to stay, cool, calm, and collected during the process. This is why agents, are so important to help players kind of navigate not only the pre-draft process, but negotiations after the fact. When players go up for an extension and they want more money, and the GM or the coach, tells the agent, look, your player's just not that great. We think he's good. It's not great. So you want great money at $30 million a year. We think we're going to give him good money at $23 million. And here's the reasons why. And they kind of list off a few things that maybe this individual doesn't do well. Well, if that's being given to a buffer, right? That agent then turns around and says something different to the player, so it kind of lands a little bit differently. But if it's said right to the player, and that player's like, yeah, right, man, F you. What are you talking about? Watch, just watch, whatever they're going to say. And I'm not saying that this happened with Shedeur, but the pre-draft visit part of this, the manner in which Sanders approached his pre-draft visits reportedly did not align with the expectations of NFL teams. And it kind of contributed to the decline of his draft stock. And then there was all the expert opinions, right? You had insights from NFL executives highlighting the importance of professional representation, again, the strategic planning, during the pre-draft process. And he just kind of failed at all of this. Sanders' experience really serves as a cautionary tale for anybody entering the NFL draft. Get an agent. Let them handle the buffer. Look, a few percent that you're giving up, who cares? Right? Keep your mouth shut. Stay off of social media as much as possible. Put your head down and just do your job. Because that's what NFL teams are expecting. Just do your job. We're expecting you to come in and be humble. And it's kind of hard now. I think the NIL money, in the way that that's kind of changed the landscape of college football, is now bleeding into the NFL a little bit, where, maybe like Eric was saying, the circus with Shedeur was too much. And everything surrounding Shedeur was too much. They felt that he was entitled. They, being a lot of NFL executives, that he was entitled. And kind of that, spoiled brat mentality is what hurt him. What were your thoughts on Shedeur, or your takeaways on Shedeur?
Yeah, it's interesting as you're going through all of that. I don't know. I tend to like his game. I think he's got talent. I did not think he was going to fall out of the first round, but leading right into that, Chris Carter was one of the main names and main personality types that had some comments here. Now, he says Shedeur kind of treated this job interview more like he just didn't take it as seriously as one should take a job interview. In fact, he says, this is Chris Carter on the Fully Loaded podcast just yesterday. It says, you're going for a job interview. Shedeur was so concerned about what his outfit was. His necklace was over $100,000. Like, he hadn't even convinced people that, hey, you're the face of our franchise. Matter of fact, he had convinced people that they were better off going in a different direction, even with people who had lesser talent. That's the rub he put onto people. He threw away at least $30 to $50 million. Shedeur and his family, they overplayed their hand, them thinking that he was in the same evaluation mode as an Eli Manning. They didn't play that right. Them trying to narrow the teams that he was going to go to. that didn't go right. And I think, you look at that, and I always look at it with, they don't want the circus that is Deion Sanders. I don't know. I kind of look at that and think, if my team really needed a quarterback, it's kind of like LeVar Ball back in the day with the NBA with the Ball brothers. I don't think it's, in the moment, it can seem like it's going to be a huge thing, but what's Deion Sanders going to do or say? Shedeur Sanders, you're going to draft him. The Browns at some point are going to put him on the field. They're going to give him a shot to see how he does. If he performs, you've got your quarterback. If not, then you can make a move on from him. But I don't know. I think I'm surprised that he fell as far as he did. I think if my team needed a quarterback, I would have been happy just based off of the talent from what I've seen of him as a football player on the field. But certainly if he showed up kind of thinking he was, too cool for school kind of thing. And there were other talent and other quarterbacks that NFL teams could have said, you know what, we can go a different direction, because you've got to be humble. That's so important in life. You have to be humble. You can be confident, but you've also got to be humble. And we'll see if Shedeur can develop that side of his personality.
I think it's great points. And for anybody that catches this, that maybe has a son that's going to be playing football, that's what they want their career to be. That's going to be entering, the NFL draft at some point. Look, let the kids be kids, right? But let the adults do the adult work, right? Let the sports agents that know the nuances of these GMs and these football franchises and what they expect and what they want to hear. Let the agent do that. That's why they're professionals. It's not to say that you couldn't manage and structure and handle your own contracts and that you're not a smart individual, but you need to separate yourself, right? You need to separate, a lot of times, you put a payroll company in charge of doing your payroll because you don't want that liability, of the company. You now have the liability of the payroll company. It's the same thing for this. You don't want to be liable for what comes out of your mouth. Let that go to your agent, and then let your agent figure out what to say to the team. But it goes further than this, right? Shedeur, like you said, was too worried about his outfit, too worried about his necklace, too worried about, what he's posting on Instagram or, X or whatever, social media sites, the videos and making a rap song or whatever. Dude, just play football. I think that this was a hardline message to all future, NFL draft potentials, that we are not going to succumb to your antics. We want good football players. And I think that the word culture and identity is now so much more ingrained into every football team. And you've heard it from other football teams. The culture is the most important. They need to make sure they have the right people to fit into that room. I think the Lions maybe emphasized culture a little bit more than other teams. You didn't really hear the word culture a whole lot, and having the right fit. Matter of fact, I think if you go back 10, 15, 20 years, maybe this is why the Lions fan base, or a large portion of it, is so screwed up over this edge rusher thing, because previous, GMs or whatever would just focus on getting the most polarizing football player by name, by school. They didn't give a crap about culture or identity. Why do you think those football teams didn't work out? Partly because of the GM, a lot to do with some of the coaches, but even more so, the players didn't fit each other. You can't stick a round peg in a square hole with 53 guys. You can't do that. They all need to fit and mesh well with each other. They have to be like-minded, right? And I think that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are doing exactly that. And Shedeur was kind of this outlier of, I'm better than everybody, look at me. NFL was like, nope, you're not, and we're going to prove it to you right now. You may have all the talent in the world. You could go undrafted because you opened up your mouth. I have Shedeur comped as Jared Goff. I think when you look at Shedeur, he's got incredible talent. He's got a good arm, not great, but I think that his touch on the football is better than most, and I think his processing is even better. But he needs to humble it up and go play football. There's a good comment in here by Trace that said, kind of similar to what I was saying too. My thoughts are that Matt Millen and and Quinn spoiled the fan base by bowing to the fans' demands on which player to get. And now that Brad isn't doing that, they're all salty over it. I love it. I love that. And I think you're exactly right, Trace. JC Jones Warner. So I'm only pointing this out because I want to make sure that I give you a correction here on our depth chart. It says, my only worry is depth and edge. We have a player who proves to be hurt more than play in Davenport, and then Levi and some UDFA. Davenport is on a 1-year deal. So let me just, I'm not calling you out, but I want to make sure that we understand who's on the roster here. Number one, our left defensive end is Aiden Hutchinson. Now, behind him, who could be a backup this year, it could be Josh Pascal, but that's not really where the Lions are expected to go, where Brad Holmes said that they're expected to go. It's Al-Quddin Muhammad behind Aiden Hutchinson. And then behind him would be like Mitchell Agood or Ahmed Hasunin, right? The new guy that we got in the 6th round. And then behind them, it would be Isaac Ukwu, and then possibly Nate Lynn, or the new guy that we got in the UDFA market, Keith Cooper, if he makes the roster. You could throw Mekhi Wingo in there as a potential because he plays inside out. Josh Pascal, same thing. He plays inside out. You also have Marcus Davenport as your lead right defensive end right now. So Levi Onwuzurike is an interior defensive lineman. He's not a defensive end. And I want to make sure that we're clear on that. And then you said some UDFA. We only have one UDFA on the defensive end group, and that's Keith Cooper. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 defensive ends and 2 defensive end hybrids that play interior. We have plenty of depth. And the thing that I'm not worried about, Riley, like some fans are, is depth. We literally just watched this team win 15 games with third-string guys playing on end, playing on defensive tackle, linebacker, right? I'm not worried. Our depth is probably better than any other team out there. So I just want to point that out. We have more than just Davenport in a UDFA. What's next on your list? Let me take a look. What time is it? 9:28. So let's stick with Lions here if we can. Actually, this one's Lions related. Let's get into Kerry. Let's get into the Kittle's contract real quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me get... Yeah, right here. 49ers make tight end George Kittle the highest paid NFL tight end. So Trey McBride had that title earlier this month, lasted for a few weeks, and then George Kittle comes in and reclaims that. So San Francisco star tight end George Kittle was set to enter the final year of his contract this season. However, the team will be keeping him around for quite a while longer. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reported on Tuesday that the 49ers and Kittle agreed to terms on a 4-year, $76.4 million contract extension that will keep Kittle in San Francisco through the 2029 season. This extension makes Kittle the highest paid tight end in NFL history, as it barely surpasses the contract that Trey McBride just signed in Arizona earlier this month. So what do you think, Will? $76.4 million for George Kittle? Overpay, underpay, just right? And if you're the GM, would you have extended that contract to George Kittle?
How much was the guarantee on this? Do you remember?
Let me double check.
It was a lot of money. Look, I don't think they overpaid. What is he getting APY? So this is a 4-year extension, right?
Correct. Yep.
And man, I love it when I fall asleep. I move apps around on my phone and you can't find anything.
40 million of it is guaranteed.
Yes, that's not terrible, right? It's 10 million a year guaranteed. It's about 48% of his contract, it's about 53% of his contract. 19 million a year. So I don't think they overpay, but it was kind of funny that there was some things coming out prior to the draft where there was rumors that Kittle wanted a max deal, wanted a new deal. and he put out a tweet. He said, "Your what do you say? Your source is not correct." Right? Trying to say that he didn't want a new deal and that he wasn't holding the 49ers ransom. Well, he was to a degree. He wanted a new deal. What I love about it, it was $100,000 more than the other highest paid tight end in the league. So he just got up, over top of, I can't remember who the other highest paid guy is right now.
Trey McBride.
McBride?
Yeah, from the Cardinals.
Oh, that's right. He just got a deal done too. So here's what I will say is we talk about the guys that Brad brings in and how is he going to keep all these guys, right? And I've been saying this all year. When I started it off with the whole Kirby trade option, when I said, don't be surprised if we lose Kirby because we just can't keep him and Brian, right? It's going to be very difficult. When you look at the statistics of the NFL, there's not two teams out there that have two top paid safeties on a roster, just like there isn't two top defensive ends on a roster, right? You've got Will Anderson on the Texans and Danielle Hunter. Well, one's on a rookie deal, one's not. So it makes sense. For everybody else in the NFL, you've got rookies on a rookie deal, and you've got a vet maybe making a max deal. So when I look at things like this, and I'm looking at where it's headed for the Lions, and I'm starting to think about Sam Laporta, well, man, if he has a banger year this year, and he wants a new deal next year. Remember, he was selected in the second round. He's only on a 4-year deal. You're going to have to get him extended after next season, or this season, year 3. He's going to be up for a deal. Is he going to play on a 4th-year deal, or are you going to end up franchise tagging the guy at some point, which the Lions haven't had to use yet? So when we start to think about how is Brad going to keep all these football players, how is he going to sign them all to all these good deals? This is where the rubber meets the road and things start to get messy, right? You're going to end up losing some really good football players, and I hope it's not Sam Laporta. So this deal for Kittle is starting to kind of outline what Sam Laporta could get because he's putting up really good numbers. The other thing that I was thinking about during this draft, to kind of go off topic here, kind of just hit me when we were talking about this. So we kept Kirby Joseph for a reason. And when you look at what the Lions are doing, they extended Kirby, and so far you have Aiden and Jameson on 5th-year extensions, or 5th-year options, not extensions. Why did Brad do that? Well, he wants to get through this year no matter what with Kirby. It doesn't mean next year that he can't trade. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just, I'm thinking out loud here. You could trade Kirby if you had to. If you then, signed Brian Branch to an extension. If you had to, you could. Expecting that Aiden Hutchinson's going to get an extension by 2026, right? That's probably when it is going to happen. If it happens this year, it would probably happen sometime around training camp, is my expectation. Usually most extensions happen end of May, early June. Just not sure. I'm not saying that the Lions don't want to extend him, but when you look at what Brad just did, bringing in another guy for the defensive line, well, that's expecting that you're probably going to lose Reeder because you can't keep paying all these expensive guys. You keep Kirby, you've got Brian, you've got Tyrion, you've got DJ. Backfield's pretty much set. You got Ennis Rakestraw, who's backing him up. He's building a roster, right? Now you have to think of the future at the linebacker position. Okay, you got Barnes. Jack Campbell's under a rookie deal. Alex Anzalone's not on a deal. So either next year we're bringing in a linebacker, or we're going to end up finding one in free agency, which is probably the likely candidate, or you end up putting Alex on a 1-year deal, which could be expensive. Brad has to find room for all of this. You bring in a rookie wide receiver this year in the 3rd round, which meant that Brad was not going to go out and spend in free agency on a wide receiver. He got the 5th-year option on JMO, which keeps everything manageable, right? So when you look at him building out this roster, you can't really find a hole. You brought in a guard this year. Graham Glasgow's going to be here no matter what. He's on a good deal. You've got Mahogany, who probably should have been a 3rd or 4th round pick last year. You got Giovanni Manu, who is a project. Broderick Martin's a project, which he may be out this year. You don't know yet. could be brought back on the practice squad. The point that I'm trying to make here is if you go around and look at what Brad is doing with the roster and with the contracts, he's ensuring that he does have the room and the space to be able to keep as many of these guys as possible. Next year, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs coming up, Sam Laporta coming up, Brian Branch coming up. Then you have to make a decision on JMO. And probably before then Aiden gets done, we're going to run out of money. At that point, it doesn't become BPA all the time. He might have to fill some needs. He might have to fill some holes. So I think what Brad is doing is just setting up this team, and that's why Kirby got done, was to ensure that other guys can also stick around. I think that everyone's trying to play ball with Brad right now and saying, look, man, we've got to go one more year all in with who we have. They brought everybody back. They kept the average contract value low, and now you have room. Look, you still have cuts after 53-man cut day. Brad always finds a guy or two. We might find a really good edge rusher after cut day that maybe another team didn't feel as high on. And then there's Zadarius Smith. I still feel that Zadarius has a handshake deal with Brad, that he's going to come back, that he's not going to sign with another team, and that he's going to make himself available. If he gets too big of a deal offer, he's probably gone. But if something's telling me, Brad didn't go after an edge for a reason, and that was because there was other needs, more important areas, better football players available where he was picking. But then we have to look to who could come back, and that is Zadarius Smith. So I think that Brad's leaving the table open. We have a ton of cap still. So I think that we have, all options are there. What are your thoughts, Riley?
Yeah, it's, as you're speaking, it's just the roster roulette that just keeps going through my mind, and how everything just kind of keeps coming back to that. That's the state of the team when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell took over to where it is now. I mean, they're in such a good spot. And, I've seen a lot of comments. I saw that commenter Justin said at first here, didn't like the draft at first, but the more I sit on it, the more I love it. Still think we should have had taken an edge rusher, but I can live with what we got. I kind of made the comment too. I'm coming around on it. It's, of all of the draft classes so far, this is the one where I've kind of had the most surprise picks. Not what I was expecting, but the more we sit and marinate on it and talk about it and think it through, I think it all makes sense. And I think you're right that there may be a handshake deal in place with Zadarius Smith. I just know that come week one, whoever the Lions play, whenever, and I think the schedule comes out here in a couple weeks, I'm going to be locked in, confident whether the Lions are playing at home or on the road. It's going to be a brutal schedule, but I'm confident that the Lions are going to have a great season, and I'm excited about what the team's doing, especially with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell.
So I'm glad you mentioned roster roulette, and then I want to get to Brent mentioned Lockie Tassi. I want to get to that too. And Bo Booth says, but Will, man, we want to spend money like a drunken sailor. Yeah. We being the fan base, right? Like there's a lot of fans that just think that money grows on trees and, Lions have this endless amount of money. Let me be honest for a minute. Yep. Sheila Hamp, they own Ford. You would think that they have billions and billions of dollars. They probably do, right? But like any business, you have a budget. And there was some things that happened this spring with now teams have to put more money in escrow. So as contracts become guaranteed, that money has to go into an escrow account. Just because you think they have all this money doesn't mean they have all this money, right? Even though they have these numbers that are set aside for cap and everything else, they still have to pay everybody else off books, right, as part of overhead. It doesn't mean that every team is just flush with cash. It all starts with how many butts are in seats and how many popcorns you sell. And then after that, it's how much money did you make? The TV deals that every team gets a chunk of. It was a $560 million last year. That kind of covered your nut, right? You got everything covered. But we never really know what every team is working with. And so I'm never going to say that a team just has endless money. They don't. We don't know what they have. We have an idea, but we don't know what the ownership is willing to spend and when money is going to be available. They have to put a lot of money away. And so when you think about that, there's something that I think a lot of us miss. how much guaranteed money right now is on this roster. It's not the cap number. You have to think on a 5-year deal or 4-year deal. For all of these football players, guaranteed money is sitting in escrow. That could be $1 billion. It could be $500,000. It could be $750,000 or $750 million or $500 million, right? Sitting in escrow. It has nothing to do with the cap every year. So there's more money that meets the eye that we don't see. And that's not my job. Like, that's just not my expertise in all this. I dip into it a little bit more every year so I can be more well-rounded. But I'll tell you, I don't know everything about what these teams are dealing with. And again, it's not my job. I'm not the GM, but I'm going to try to learn it so that I can bring you as much information as possible. There's something else in here. I'll get to Lockie Toski in just a minute. Peter Van Larhoven updated the cap for us as 42.8. And I think that was it. So Lockie Toski. So this one is interesting to me. And this is off topic this morning. We didn't have this one locked up. But they added a 21-year-old Australian rugby player in Lockie Toski to the roster. Dude's massive, right? How big was he? Like 350 pounds, like 6'6". I think Brent highlighted it in the chat. 6'6", 350 pounds, 34-inch arms. I mean, he's massive, right? This reminds me of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman Jordan Mailata. Now, he was a rugby player, never really played football, comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and now he's one of the best offensive tackles in the game. Like, how does that happen? Right? You get super lucky. That's how it happens. This one has some legs to it. Doesn't mean he's going to make the roster. Could end up being a practice squad guy, right? But there's more than what meets the eye with this guy, and he's going to compete. He's going to compete at a high level. So Jordan Mailata, he came through the International Pathways program just like Lockie Toski has. And there's a quote in here by, who quoted this? Let me see. It was by Toski himself. He says, "I didn't know who Jordan Mailata was and what the NFL is. As soon as I search up the YouTube about Jordan Mailata and the NFL IPP, International Pathways Program, I realized how big it is." Toski said this via ESPN. The IPP program began in 2016, and it was a program that provided players outside of the United States and Canada with a more direct path to the NFL. While the Lions have rostered players who have come through the program after first joining other teams, including defensive tackle David Bada and offensive lineman Max Percher, Toski will be the first player from the program to join the Lions as his first team. That's interesting, right? Lockie Toski, he will be free to develop at his own pace without the Lions having to worry about performing roster gymnastics to keep him on board. Toski will be participating in the Lions rookie minicamp this month. And what that really means is this. He's not added to the roster. He's an extra player that you don't have to worry about. Toski participated in the IPP Pro Day. This had to be back in March, at least. He played rugby in Australia, like I already said. He is 6'6", 348 pounds, and 34-inch arms. Obviously has great size. He has the tools to be a big interior defensive lineman, along with the toughness and the makeup to play in the trenches. He possesses strong and intriguing combination of developmental tools, stature, and mindset, according to Pioli. This is somebody to watch. Like, this guy's going to be fun to watch. And when you think about 348 pounds, you think of like some just big guy, right? Like, he's fairly cut up. You know, for a big man, you think of Penei Sewell and how big he is, but how slim he kind of looks from the chest down. Same thing with Toski, man. Toski's got a unique physique for how big he is. He's going to be fun to watch, but you think of like a nose tackle, he'd be one of the biggest in the league. Right up there with Trevonde Sweat. And I think that, you know, if the Lions develop him right, give him a little bit of time, he could stick. And man, could he clog up a couple of holes and give the Lions some opportunity to do something unique, put them in at, specific plays, just to bottle up the middle and see where it goes. Interesting to see where he goes. Anyway, what is your thoughts on Tossie? You've had to look at him at all? Have you had to look at him at all?
Just this morning, I mean, when you mentioned it, I thought Lockie Tossie. That's a cool name. That's the name of a pro athlete if I've ever heard one. 6'6", 350, dude. I mean, between him and Manu and Mahogany and this Ahmed guy the Lions just got, I mean, these are just some big athletic guys, and it'll be interesting to see what if he finds his way onto the field at any point for the Lions, but. There's no limit to where Brad Holmes is looking to try to improve the team. That is for sure.
So there's been a lot of question about a certain player that the Lions drafted. I think it was 7th round, and that was Antoine Green. In this spring, we had questions. Is he on the roster? Is he off the roster? Was he waived with an injury settlement? And we could have sworn that he had an injury settlement last year and that he was gone. That wasn't the case. He was actually on the roster this whole time. And Riley, what happened just the other day?
Yeah, former 7th round Detroit Lions pick Antoine Green was waived by the team on Tuesday afternoon. The former 7th round pick by the Lions in 2023, whose time in the league thus far has been marred by injury. Green played in 9 games as a rookie, predominantly on special teams. He caught just 1 pass for 2 yards. Green was in contention last year for the wide receiver X spot, but suffered a neck injury during the preseason. An injury which ultimately was a season ender. So Green will now hit waivers. And if he clears without a team putting a claim in within the next 24 hours, which might be down to, 10 hours at this point or whatever it is, but he becomes a free agent clear to sign with any team. So do you think Green's time in Detroit is done? Is that all she wrote for Green?
Oh, I think so. I think he's done. Honestly, I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't had conversations with anybody, but after the injury, he just wasn't himself from what I've read and heard. And I think, they've added Isaac Tesla for a reason. And I think that, that's the way that the Lions are going to go. I think that Antoine Green's time in Detroit's definitely up. So next I want to point to a problem for the Detroit Lions. And this is something that I've been speaking about prior to the draft. Riley, you heard me say it many times. If the Lions get 3 to 4 football players, don't be surprised. And what I meant by that, excuse me, is if they really kind of sunk their claws in on a few players and that was it, yeah, we might get a couple of late round picks, but that was it. That's who's going to be able to really make this team. Anybody after that, it's going to be very tough. And the reason why I'm saying this now, again, is because what just happened to the Lions. You would not expect that a player would say no to the Detroit Lions. And that's what happened. Just a couple of days ago, the Lions were rejected by a UDFA player. And this is a player that they garnered a ton of attention. When I read this, I'm like, it makes sense because this player knows he doesn't have a chance like a snowball in hell to make this roster or get any playing time. The Lions were rejected by a UDFA cornerback, Jacob Robinson. He signed instead with the 49ers. But the Lions were not the only team that he said no to. He turned down offers from the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Lions and signed with the 49ers. So this speaks more of not the Lions not being a place for guys to go or, a destination now where a lot of football players want to go. That was evidence. Again, I'm sitting there on the Play 60 field and Jahad Campbell and Maxwell Harrison come up to me and they point and said, "Oh, Detroit." They saw my hat. "Detroit, man, we want to go to Detroit. Tell them to come and get us." You guys saw the video.
There's video of that. Yep.
Right. And why are they saying that? Players want to come to Detroit. They want to play for Dan Campbell. It's not that Jacob Robinson doesn't want to play in Detroit. He went to a team where he felt that maybe he had a chance to play and maybe an opportunity to win a spot. So the Lions' interest in Robinson wasn't shocking at all. They lost or are losing, right? Carlton Davis, they lost. Fetu Malifonwu's gone. Manuel Mosley's not coming back. Kendall Vildor. I mean, they let go of a handful of guys, thankfully. I'm thankful now. But we have DJ Reed. We have Avante Maddox. We have Rock Ya-Sin. Ennis Rakestraw. Terrion Arnold. I mean, pretty deep defensive back room. So the Lions finally heard the answer no from a football player. But it just speaks to, again, what I said leading up to the draft. It is going to be a very difficult team to make. The guys that they brought back in free agency when they rebuilt this roster, a lot of them are going to make this roster. The rookies that they brought in through the draft, the majority of them could make the roster. I think that Hassanin, he's going to have an upward battle, but man, this guy's motor, it just doesn't stop. And I think that he's going to give everything that he has, barring any sort of an injury that is going to keep him on the sideline. I think that Hassanin, given what we know about him right now, I think he has a real shot to make this roster. And he's going to be an energy guy, but I think he's going to fill that, that James Houston style of role where he might be a third down specialist, go get the quarterback kind of a deal. We'll see. We'll see where he fits. We'll see how well he does. Interesting player for sure. Obviously the Lions did a little bit something different and also made history with the 6th round pick. And that is, hiring or bringing in the first Egyptian player to ever play football in the NFL. So a very historic pick in the 6th round. I think it was obviously a much better day for him than maybe for other 6th round picks because it's history, right? I think it's important that we recognize the fact that this guy worked his butt off. I mean, he didn't even start playing football, until college?
I don't even think he knew what it was until 2019. If the reports and the articles that I've read are accurate, which I have reason to believe they are, he was born in the U.S., left, came back, and was not aware of what American football was, and then started watching it and started thinking, that looks pretty fun.
I think it's going to be great to watch this guy. And of course, I'm still hoping to get some of these guys on. Obviously, there's going to be a gauntlet of podcasts and interviews and things between, this last week and next week and mini camps and stuff like that. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some of these guys on. I'm definitely going to try. I'm excited to see where this guy goes. And you brought up something earlier, like he was a CrossFit champion or something.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this pulled up again on him. But yeah, he was, from everything I've read on him too, he was a CrossFit champion in Egypt, like #1 ranked CrossFit athlete. I believe he's into MMA as well. So probably not a guy that you would want to mess with.
Well, I just think it speaks volumes to, and I'm glad he does MMA. So, he's going to have really good hand fighting technique. I'd have to say, I haven't watched a lick of tape on this guy. So I'm going to dig into it, between now and Monday and hopefully have a better report, on Hassanin and what I think about him, but not that it matters. I think that who he is who he is, and he's going to show up. 115 quarterback pressures in 2 seasons. That's pretty solid for a college edge rusher. It's not like you see that very often where guys are getting more than 55, 60 quarterback pressures in a season. That's a ton. And Boise State, obviously had a good one. I'm excited to see 24 sacks in his final. He had 22 of 24 sacks in his final 2 seasons at Boise State as well. So he knows how to get to the quarterback. He knows, more importantly, how to create pressure. And a quote by Ahmed Hassanin is, "I just want to take this opportunity and thank the love of my life. You changed my life. You seriously changed my life, and you're the best thing to ever happen to me. I promise I'll always protect you, always be by your side, and help you fulfill your dreams like you've helped fulfill mine." Talking about his now soon-to-be wife, where he got engaged moments after getting selected by the Detroit Lions. So pretty cool weekend for this guy.
Well, yeah, that's not a bad afternoon for him, for sure.
Not at all. Not at all. Let's see what else is on our list. Oh, I know.
Hey, there's a Walls Won't Fall joined
Okay.
the level 1 membership, I believe. Let me scroll back up, see if
Oh,
I can
yeah,
see.
just seen it. Hey, man, walls won't fall. Love it. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
welcome. Welcome in.
Welcome in, buddy. Let me get you lined up with, let's get a tone of the day going. Let's see here. First, I want to ask you this question.
You sure about that?
About joining?
You sure about that? You sure about that?
We press the issue here, man. We try to speak truth. So if you're not about truth, I want to rethink. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome in, buddy. Let's get you, JMO's still around, so why don't we do like a JMO fly-in or something?
Looks, throws, it is complete. There goes JMO right side. He's got the angle to the end zone. 25-20, 15-10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. JMO flies into the end zone, and the Lions extend their lead.
Walls won't fall, man, and neither will the Detroit Lions. Appreciate you joining us. Did I deactivate my Facebook? No, I just don't do a lot on Facebook, man. I was hot on Facebook for a while. I do plan on starting to restream to multiple places again. I just haven't spent any time. Matter of fact, I don't have the time to manage all these things that I'm trying to do now that I have NFL credential media access. Like there's a whole different side of things that I'm trying to get into, and it's just taking my time. Just like writing on the Substack, man. My time is just sucked away. It's hard. It's hard to do all. That's why we're trying to build a team here. We need to get more people on the team quickly. Let's talk about this other guy that the Lions brought in the UDFA market. Now, this one I'm extremely excited about, but I've been excited about running backs before, and they didn't pan out. But today I want to put the spotlight on Kai Robichaud. Robachaw's journey to the Lions is nothing short of inspiring. He's a native of Columbus, Georgia. He began his collegiate career at Western Kentucky, which makes sense that Brad obviously had eyes on him. We've had a lot of eyes in Kentucky, but Western Kentucky notably. He then transferred to Boston College for his junior and senior seasons. At Boston College, he has been nothing less than a workhorse. In two, what I consider electrifying seasons, he racked up 1,524 rushing yards, an average of 4.5 yards per carry, and he also led the Eagles with 18 rushing touchdowns. Now, this last season, 2024, he recorded 10 TDs on the ground, tying the single-season record previously held by Boston College's all-time leading rusher, get this, A.J. Dillon, former of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, his performance in high-stake moments, from my opinion, look, this guy put it all on the line, but in high-stake moments, he really rose up. Against Florida State, ranked number 10 at the time, he scored both a rushing and receiving touchdown in a stunning upset win last season. This dude is massive for a running back. Like, he has all the makings of being that ground and pound guy. 6 foot, 217-pound frame. He's built for the grind. I think that he's well known, obviously, as a downhill runner, a heavy downhill runner. He's built to power through short yardage situations, makes him a perfect option for goal line, and he is not a one-dimensional threat. His ability to make plays in the passing game only adds another layer to his skill set, making him a dual threat out of the backfield. Even in a landscape where Detroit already boasts, very talented running back system, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that the Lions recognized a huge opportunity here. They didn't draft a running back, which I thought that they were going to go after that Lan Larson, who really reminds me of Christian McCaffrey a ton. But this guy, he kind of has it all. He's kind of has the best of both worlds, if you will. But they opened the door for this UDFA signing who has big play potential. Robichaud is really set to earn his stripes with the Lions. He knows that he has to come in and earn it. Here's the kicker. The contract details from Spotrac. 3-year deal worth nearly $3 million with the Detroit Lions. He only received a signing bonus of $5,000 and $50,000 of his deal was guaranteed. You guys know how I feel about that. I think that every player that gets drafted or UDFA, whatever, needs a little bit more money. They don't make anything during the summer. So the structure of his contract highlights the Lions' belief in his upside. He has an average annual salary just shy of $990K. He has every opportunity to earn it and prove it. I think his college production is quite good, and a glimpse of what's yet to come. He's entering what couldn't be a better situation, right? You have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery to learn from. And, oh, by the way, who's our new running back coach, Riley?
Oh my gosh, the name's escaping me, but
Tashard Choice.
Tashard Choice, right,
Yeah,
right.
I know, I forget too sometimes, but Tashard Choice, one of the better running back coaches at the collegiate level, probably one of the best, and now he's in Detroit. You're bringing Robichaud into a situation that is undeniably probably the best place he could have landed, and he has a real shot. Taking a look at our depth chart for running backs, obviously it's Jahmyr and David Montgomery. But behind those two, you have Craig Reynolds, Sion Vaki, and then Robichaud. And then another guy, Anthony Tyus III. If he can prove himself, could he be that fourth running back and beat out Craig Reynolds? I think that's the only player that he's really up against this summer, assuming he lasts on the roster. Probably should last on the roster throughout the summer. Craig Reynolds is the only guy I think that is really up for a potential change here. I don't think Sione Vaki is going to go anywhere. And will the Lions keep 4? They've historically kept 3. And then they've always stashed a couple on the practice squad. So we'll see what happens, but I really like this kid. What do you think about Robichaud? Do you have any opportunity to check him out yet?
It's very new to me. I just know the Lions. I remember reading an article that they brought in like a Cam Scatabo during the draft. I didn't know if that was just them doing their due diligence or if they were really looking at, bringing in another ball carrier, because it might just be because I'm a Utah Ute, but I know that Sione Vaki, man, that kid can play. So I really feel like, getting carries would be hard to come by. And I feel like Craig Reynolds and Vaki are a perfect 3 and 4, however order you put them in. But you can never have enough good football players. And maybe if he's on the practice squad and you kind of keep him around and then he gets a shot sometime and capitalizes on it, that might be the route for him to see the field.
Walls won't fall. Let me get back to you here. So couldn't find my profile. Depends which profile you're looking for. I mean, there's the Rock Down Detroit Lions profile, and then there's my main profile's blocked. It's not open to anyone. So it's only the Rock Down Detroit Lions that would be open. You can look for that one, but I don't do a ton on there. I really don't. I tried to have someone help me with it, but they failed. They kept doing copyright stuff, so can't have that. What's this stuff about Z's girlfriend? I missed this. Justin, can't read his last name. Justin Ochadlus, I probably butchered it, my bad. Says, when Zedarius' girlfriend posted a video begging him to stay with the Lions, he said, "Are you going to pay half my salary?" Basically saying they're not offering him enough money. I guess I'm not surprised. Did Z really say that? So that's on video somewhere? And his girlfriend actually posted it? Wow. Look, he got cut. He still got, I don't think he got anything back for dead money. What did he get for dead money this year?
Let's see if I can look it up. I hadn't seen anything about him saying any type of comment like that. From what I've seen, I mean, I think he's been just going to Detroit Pistons games and hanging around and laying low, and I think we'll see.
Yeah, his girlfriend is from Detroit.
Yeah, so
okay, so there was no cap hit for the Lions obviously in 25, and there's no dead cap for the Lions in 25 or 26. But had they kept him, it would have been 11.5 or whatever this year, and then like another 5.25 next year with him not on the roster. So, maybe that means that the Lions are only offering him $8 million. Like, I still think there's an opportunity he comes back. Obviously, no other team has offered him more. Otherwise, I think he'd probably be gone. But anyway, it's after 10 a.m. Riley, what's your final 30? I know you got to bounce.
yeah, awesome show this morning. I'm happy to be part of Rocked On podcast. I don't know, Will, if you are joining or doing something tomorrow night. Is that your plan?
Yeah, so tomorrow I've got raffles. We've got raffles we have to get done. So kind of like last year, I tried to do it during, but it's tough. Obviously, we had a lot of issues with Bluetooth, which is now I know. For next year, I've got to have wired stuff with me because I got home, no issues, none.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain signals that you couldn't be on, and apparently this Bluetooth must have been interfering. So whatever signal that this or frequency that this Bluetooth operates at, it didn't, the NFL didn't like it. So it clearly gave me some problems. But now that we're back, we'll get everything lined up for tomorrow night and get all the raffles done. So if you haven't, I've left the raffles open. If you still would like to get your raffle tickets, you just go to buymeacoffee.com/rockedon, ROCKEDON, and you can get more raffle tickets for the items that are up. Some of them have there's a minimum on some of them that have to be met. I haven't even looked to see which ones have been met yet, but we'll find out by tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be happy to join tomorrow if I could be of help with that. But appreciate everybody hanging out with us again this morning. And this damn Brad Holmes, man, we'll get through to him one way or another. But no, man, I love Rocked On Detroit Lions, and I'm so damn excited for the rest of this offseason and going into the season. I couldn't be more excited. So hope everybody has a great, what is today? Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. So I will be getting some videos out. I tried to cover, as much of the draftees and I'll do a video about all of them. Yeah, I might even do some of the UDFAs that I really like. Last thing I'm going to say for today, actually, you got to go. So let me get you out. I don't want to keep you on too long.
Yep, your role. I'll be tuning in from here on. So have a great day, everybody.
All right, buddy. You too. Thanks.
We'll see you.
So the last thing that I want to talk about here is Isaac Tesla. So when I was live, obviously we didn't, and I know I spoke about this the other day, but we didn't really have an opportunity to look at everything that was happening. And so I want to point this out because I've seen this in multiple areas. I've heard it on multiple shows, across the country, radio shows, national pundits, ESPN, CBS, and others. I don't know what they don't understand, or I don't know what they're not getting about what the Lions did. So the Lions had 2 third-round picks next year, right? And one of them is not realized yet because it's a compensatory pick for Aaron Glenn. And then our other third-round pick was our natural third-round pick. So the Lions had 2 third-round picks. Now they swapped, right? And they moved forward. They moved forward to get up and get Tesla. And then they gave away 2 third-round picks the next year. You have to imagine that when you're picking at the end of a round, it's almost like picking at the beginning of the next round, especially for a compensatory pick. The compensatory pick are the last picks of the round. So you are essentially picking at the beginning of the 4th round. That's the value that you have to put on those draft picks. But since it's also a compensatory pick, it loses about 30 to 40% of its value, depending on who you talk to. And then also a future 3rd-round pick loses 20, 25% of its value because it's a future. So they're heavily discounted by the teams that you're trading with. And I think for that reason, a lot of Lions fans did not understand what the Lions were giving up. And I will say this. I absolutely, in Brent Lighton, it's the exact same thing I said too. Like, we moved up a whole round, right? 30 plus spots. I mean, that's a whole round. But again, when I was live and I broke it down, I said, well, it's about 20% better when you added everything up at a whole value. It was 20% better or 20% loss, either way you want to look at it for the Lions. The Lions lost 20%. But after you discount everything, the Lions gained like 12 or 15%. So they kind of gained by moving up and doing what they did. Yeah, we lost 2 third-round picks, and maybe next year those third-round picks would have been worth a whole heck of a lot more. My only gripe with this is not the player that we got, but it's next year. You could have taken both of those third-round picks and moved up into the first. You absolutely could. If you were picking at 32 next year and you take those 2 thirds, you probably could have moved up maybe to 15, maybe 18, maybe 20, somewhere in that range. You might have had to package it up with a little bit something else, but you could have done it. And the Lions could have had 2 first-round picks. They won't now, and they won't have 2 third-round picks. Who they got, though, is Isaac Tesla. And the fact that Brad says it was his favorite wide receiver, I'm not surprised. He didn't have a ton of production. And again, so for those of us that, or those of you that put a ton of value into college production, just like you did with Shamar Stewart and saying that, you know, he's not going to be a first-round pick because he didn't have production. Where did he go again? Exactly where I said he was going to go. And that's because his production is not the whole value of the player. Go look at Isaac Tesla's 100 targets where he didn't drop a ball. Not once. That's what the Lions are getting. They're getting a guy that has sure hands. They're getting a guy that is a big body, able receiver with good speed that is able to play over the middle and down the sideline on the boundary. He's going to be a big target in the end zone. He's like having a small tight end, if you will, but he's also a willing blocker. So I'm extremely excited to see how he does. Tim Patrick's not going to be able to be around forever, but now you have Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tim Patrick, Isaac Tesla, and Khalif Raymond are probably your 5 receivers for next season. That is a pretty solid depth chart, if you ask me. It's exactly what this team needed. Let me run through a quick 53-man roster. If I were to take a guess or a stab, the Lions will probably only keep 5, maybe 6. And I say that because you have Tim Patrick, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaac Tesla, and Khalif Raymond. You would think that those are the locks. But then they went and drafted Dominic Lovett, who can be what I thought during the draft. He's going to be a special teamer. Good speed. I love everything about the guy that I've seen already. They also brought in Jackson Meeks, Ronnie Bell. I believe we got Ronnie Bell back. Tom Kennedy and Jacoby Keeney James. So the Lions still have a lot of football players that might have an opportunity at making a roster. Will the Lions keep 6 this year? That's going to be the question. Are they going to keep 6? I think that if they're going to keep 6, they're going to make sure that they either keep a 6 wide receiver that can back up Khalif Raymond from a punt kick return type specialist, or they're going to make sure that they have the replacement for Tim Patrick, which is Isaac Tesla, and maybe a second big man even beyond that to make sure that they have 2 big guys for next year in 2026. So I would say that if they keep 6, right now it's Tim Patrick, Jameson Williams, St. Brown, Isaac Tesla, Khalif Raymond, and then it's a toss-up, but I'm just going to roll with Dominic Lovett. On the offensive line here, I got to get something open because it'll help me get through this. I got to look at our 53 from last year. Man, I had so much information during the draft that I couldn't get to because I didn't have a keyboard. You know how frustrating that was? I was so disappointed. But we got through it. We did the best we could. I thought we did a pretty good job at giving you guys some good information on all the teams, not just the Lions. Let's see. Once I find it, I can get through this. Okay, I don't know where it is. Okay, so the Detroit Lions roster from last year, the initial 53, is what I'm going to look at. And that's what I'm going to compare here to the roster today. So last year we kept 2 quarterbacks. I think that'll be the same. I doubt that we keep 3. So it's going to be Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker. When you look at running backs, the Lions did keep 4. David Montgomery, Gibbs, Reynolds, and Vaki. And now there's a real opportunity that Robichaud, if he can beat out Craig Reynolds and show that he's a willing blocker, there's a real opportunity for him to crack this roster. But I'm going to stick with the main 4, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, and Sione Vaki for right now until we get to see what Robichaud is all about. Wide receivers. This one blew my mind last year that the Lions only kept 4. And there was a reason for that. And I believe it had a lot to do with what was going on with the defensive line. But now this year, you're going to be able to do things a little bit differently in case IR issues pop up. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I'm going to roll with 5. And that'll be Tim Patrick, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaac Tesla, and we'll go Khalif Raymond. I know I said 6 a minute ago, but I'm going to go with 5, and there's a reason for that. I should probably add these up, huh? So that's 2 QBs, that's 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers. We're at 11. All right, let's go down to tight end. So on tight end, we've got Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Shane Zielstra, Kenny Yeboah, Caden Priestcorn, and Zach Horton. I don't know enough about the last 2 UDFAs. I think that Kenny Yeboah is going to make this roster, and that's who I'm going to take over Shane Zielstra. So Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Kenny Yeboah. That's my 3 tight ends. Offensive line. Last year we kept 10. And that was Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, Kevin Zeitler, Dan Skipper, Colby Sorsdahl, Giovanni Manu, Keoti Owasika, and Michael Neese. This year, I believe that is going to be Taylor Decker, Giovanni Manu, Christian Mahogany, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, Tate Ratledge, Miles Frazier. That's 7. Jamarco Jones, that's 8. I'll go with Michael Neese for right now. That's 9. And I don't see Colby Sorsdahl on here. Am I missing something? Did Colby already get cut? No, there he is. I'm sorry. I screwed up. Taylor Decker, Christian Mahogany, Frank Ragnow, Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell. That's 5. Giovanni Manu, Graham Glasgow, Michael Neese, Miles Frazier. And then it's either up to Dan Skipper, Jamarco Jones, Keoti Owasika, Kingsley Eguakon, Netnani Moody, Colby Sorsdahl, or Leaf Fautanu, and Mason Miller. I'm going to say Dan makes the roster right now. And then we have a really good set of backups, but Colby Sorsdahl is on the outs. Moody is on the outs. Eguakon, Owasika, and Jamarco Jones. All of those guys have an opportunity to make the practice squad. So that's 24 players on offense. Then we go to the defensive line. So this is where I think things changed this year. Last year we kept 9. The year before that, I believe we kept 10. I think the Lions go with 10 this year. Given the issues that we had on the defensive line, they could go a little bit deeper here, but we're going to have 2 guys on IR probably to start the season, right? You're going to have Ali McNeil, I think Mekhi Wingo might start on IR, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to say that he is, just for now. So I'm going to go Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Josh Paschal, Tyleek Williams, Levi Onwuzurike, Al-Qudim Muhammad, Roy Lopez, Ahmed Hassanin, and now it's up to Mitchell Agood, Miles Adams, Broderick Martin, Nate Lynn. Look, I think that Broderick Martin's going to step up, at least right now. And I think the center of this defense is probably more important. I'm going to go Broderick Martin. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. So that's 10. I'm going to roll with 10. And we're going to have 2 guys on IR. So that means when those guys come back, hold on. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so that's leaving Mekhi Wingo and Aleem McNeil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, Mitchell Agood is also not going to make it. Broderick Martin's going to make it. So that's going to leave Aleem McNeil, Mekhi Wingo on IR, and then Mitchell Agood, Miles Adams, Nate Lynn, Pat O'Connor, Chris Smith, and then Keith Cooper Jr. to kind of fight it out for that 10th position or possibly free agency. Or it's not free agency, practice squad. Linebackers. Last year we kept 6. I'm thinking we're probably going to do the same this year, but I think that Malcolm Rodriguez might be on IR potentially. Now we only get 2 spots, I believe. So that's going to be a little bit interesting for the Lions, a little bit of roster gymnastics. Until we get more information on injuries, I'm just not sure where these guys are right now in their rehab. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes. Those 3 are locks, right? Grant Stewart. I think Malcolm's going to be on IR, so I'm going to put him there for right now. Trevor Nowaski, I think, makes this roster, so that's 5. We need another will linebacker. So is it going to be Ezekiel Turner, which I'm not a huge fan of? Probably. We'll go Ezekiel Turner. That's 6. That leaves Malcolm Rodriguez on IR, and then Beauplan, Pittman, and Gilbert to fight it out. So we are already at 40. And then now we're going to go to defensive backs. Last year we kept 11. This year, maybe we drop to 10. And then that might open up a position elsewhere. But for some reason, I think the Lions are going to go a little bit deeper on the defensive line this year because of what happened last year. All right, so defensive backs. I don't think it's a surprise that it's Terrion Arnold, it's Brian Branch, it's Kirby Joseph, it's DJ Reed, it's Amik Robertson. Those are your starting 5. And then behind them, Ennis Rakestraw, well, he's going to make it. Dan Jackson, who we brought in this year in the draft, he's probably going to make it. Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin, that's 9. All right, Morris Norris, he'll probably stick around. That's 10. So far, that's Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, DJ Reed, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Morris Norris, Dan Jackson, Khalil Dorsey, Avonte Maddox, and we'll go, the Rock Ya-Sin for number 11. Khalil Dorsey is the one that I'm worried about. He might be on IR, so we'll waive him for now, and we'll do Lawrence Strickland. Khalil Dorsey, we'll put him on IR for the meantime. I just don't know where he's at in his rehab. So starting 5, backups, Rakestraw, Norris, Jackson, Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin. That's 10. Lawrence Strickland is number 11. We'll go with 11. So that puts us at 51. So a little bit tight because I need 3 special teamers, which Jack Fox, Jake Bates, Hogan Hatton, those are your special teamers. That would put me at 54. So I have to drop one guy. And so I went heavy on the defensive line. See, I don't think that these guys are going to want to give up a defensive lineman, knowing that these guys will probably get picked up. Whereas, you know, the guys on the defensive back room, they might be able to get away with. Just lost my ear. 1 second. They might be able to get away with allowing one of those guys to hit waivers. So I'm going to drop a defensive back. We'll go to 10 on the defensive back room. That'll get us to 53. That's my list for at least right now. I'll try to print that up and get it out there later on today. All right. I think that's it for today. I'm going to get into doing some videos later on. Kenny Powers. That's hilarious, Brent Layton. Or Layton. And we do have plenty of dirtbags on this offensive line now. It's going to be fun to watch, man. J Rock was asking if I went to the draft. Yeah, we did a live show from the draft. You weren't watching? Man, got to pay attention. You got to follow the people that are actually going to bring you real, honest, hard work, good, positive information. Look, I'm realistic. You know, I'm a fan too, but super realistic about this team. We try to do everything with truth, honesty, and transparency, and have good conversation. So I'm not here for entertainment. We're here to give you guys good quality content. We'll catch you guys in the next one. There more than likely won't be a morning show tomorrow. I'm not decided yet. I got to wait for some testing to come back today, and then we'll get it figured out. So otherwise tomorrow night and possibly tonight. Just depends on how much I get done today. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day today, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Go Lions.
Yeah. 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. Against all odds. Against all odds. Against